When a man finally walks away in peace, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with a calm strength in his heart, it shakes her in a way nothing else ever could. She thought you would fight for her forever. She thought your world would crumble without her presence. But instead, you did something she never prepared for. You healed, you grew, and you moved on. That silence, that peace, that unshakable acceptance, it leaves a mark on her soul. Because nothing unsettles a woman more than realizing the man she once took for granted no longer needs her to breathe, to smile, or to feel complete. She feels the weight of your absence in ways she never expected, and it's not always immediate. At first, she may convince herself that your silence is temporary, that you will eventually reach out, that you cannot live without her. But over time, the quiet becomes louder, and the void you leave behind grows heavier than your presence ever was. She starts to notice the small things, the way her phone no longer lights up with your name, the way her world no longer revolves around conversations with you, the way the energy in her day feels different without the security of knowing you are there. Your absence is not just physical, it is emotional, spiritual, and deeply psychological. She can no longer access the comfort of your attention, the reassurance of your care, or the consistency of your love. That emptiness weighs on her because she realizes that what she dismissed or took lightly before has now been removed completely. It is not your anger she feels, because anger can still be engaged with. It is not your begging or clinging, because that would mean she still holds power. What she feels is the stillness of a man who no longer fights, no longer chases, no longer needs. And that stillness is suffocating because it forces her to confront a truth she tried to avoid. You were not unto her. You chose to be with her. Now that the choice has been withdrawn, the air feels colder, the spaces feel emptier, and life feels quieter. She begins to compare what her days were like with you versus what they are without you. The laughter, the comfort, the steady presence you brought, it is all gone. And when she looks around, she realizes that no one else can fill that exact role. No one else can bring the same energy because it was uniquely yours. She feels it most during the moments when she expects you to be there. A tough day at work, a moment of loneliness at night, or a simple song that reminds her of you. These triggers make your absence undeniable. They make her realize that while people can be replaced on the surface, the depth of connection you once gave her cannot be replicated. And the more peacefully you carry yourself, the heavier your absence becomes. Because peace is powerful. It shows that you are not pretending, you are not faking strength, you are genuinely free. And nothing haunts a woman more than realizing the man who once poured so much into her life now carries all that energy elsewhere, with no intention of returning. Her ego feels the loss before her heart does, because pride reacts faster than love ever will. When she sees that you've moved on with peace and strength, it is not her emotions that sting first. It is her ego that takes the initial blow. The truth is, she may not have loved you in the way you loved her, or perhaps she thought she had endless time to decide. She may have assumed that no matter what, you would always be there waiting, orbiting her world, desperate for her attention. But when she realizes you no longer revolve around her, when she sees that your focus has shifted, her pride is the first to scream. Ego whispers to her, how dare he let go of me so easily? How dare he show the world that he doesn't need me to stand tall? And in that whisper lies the wound. It's not about missing your presence yet, it's about missing the control. She was used to knowing she could call, and you would answer. She was used to knowing that even after arguments or distance, your heart would always bend back toward her. That assurance was her unspoken power, and now that power has been stripped away. When she notices your peace, when she notices that you're not chasing, not proving, not explaining, it unsettles her deeply. Her ego cannot accept that the man she once defined as hers, even if she mistreated or neglected him, has now redefined himself without her in the picture. Her ego is the part of her that thrives on validation. It doesn't matter if she truly loved you or not. The very idea that you no longer place her on a pedestal feels like rejection to her pride. And rejection is something the ego despises more than anything else. So before her heart can even process the reality of losing you, before she can even admit to herself what you meant, her ego kicks in defensively. She might tell herself, he must be faking it. He must be pretending to be happy without me, or worse. She may try to provoke you, test you, pull at your emotions to see if you will still respond, just so her pride can feel fed again. But every time she sees you stand firm in peace, her ego takes another cut, because nothing injures pride more than indifference. Anger would still mean you care. Bitterness would still mean you're attached. But peace communicates that you've truly outgrown her. And for her ego, that is unbearable, because it proves you are stronger than the influence she once had over you. In time, her heart may begin to feel the true loss. She may remember the love, the laughter, the bond. But the ego is always first in line. It is the first to cry out, the first to react, the first to ache when you step into your power and show that her chapter in your life has closed. And that is why when she sees you moved on peacefully, the first wave of pain she feels is not love. It is pride collapsing under the realization that the man who once gave her everything no longer needs to give her anything at all. She questions her own worth the moment she realizes your peace is not an act, not a mask, but a genuine state of being. At first, she may try to convince herself that you're simply hiding your pain, pretending to be fine, or putting on a show for the world. But as days turn into weeks and weeks into months, she starts to notice something undeniable. You are not faking it. You're lighter, calmer, more focused, and more grounded. You're not bitter, you're not chasing, and you're not tied to her anymore. And that is when the questions begin to rise inside her. If I was so valuable to him, how did he let go so easily? If I mattered so much, how is he smiling without me? Was I really worth less than I thought? This is the painful irony. When you were pouring love into her, when you were available, when you were giving her your energy and devotion, she may not have fully seen your value. She might have assumed your presence was guaranteed, that no matter what happened, you would stay. But the moment you detach and move forward in peace, you become a mirror she cannot ignore. In that mirror, she sees the truth. Not of who you are, but of how she treated you. And in that truth lies the unsettling realization that she had something valuable, and she underestimated it. That realization eats at her, because it forces her to confront her own choices. She begins to wonder why you no longer look at her the way you once did. She wonders why you no longer reach for her attention or validation. And in those quiet moments, she questions not just your love for her, but her own worth as a woman. Because when a man detaches peacefully, it communicates something far deeper than words. It says, I have standards. I will not beg. I will not remain where I am not valued. And that message cuts directly into her pride and self-image. She cannot help but ask herself, was I not enough? Did I fail him? Or did I lose the kind of love that I may never receive again? These questions create a storm within her because they attack the very foundation of her self-worth. When she sees you thriving without her, it is no longer about jealousy of another woman. It is about realizing that you never needed her to begin with. She was never the source of your strength, only the recipient of it. And when that strength is redirected toward your own growth, your own peace, and perhaps even towards someone else, it forces her to admit a brutal truth. She was not the center of your universe. She was only part of it. The more you remain unshaken in your peace, the deeper these questions dig into her. And unlike ecstasy or criticism or judgment, these doubts cannot be silenced easily because they come from within. She begins to question not only what she lost, but who she is without the validation you once gave her. And that's the power of peaceful detachment. It doesn't just end a relationship, it forces the other person to confront themselves. Your calm exit leaves behind a silence that screams louder than any words, making her wonder if she ever truly knew her own worth, or if she only felt valuable when she was reflected in your love. She realizes your strength was never her control when she sees you no longer react to her presence, her silence, or even her absence. For a long time, she may have believed she had a kind of power over you, the kind that comes from beauty, from charm, from the attention you freely gave her. She may have thought that her words could sway your emotions, her actions could dictate your mood, and her approval could either lift you up or tear you down. And maybe for a time that felt true, because when a man loves deeply, he is open, vulnerable, and willing to give. But what she failed to recognize was that your willingness to give was not weakness, it was choice. And once you chose to stop giving, once you chose peace over pursuit, she was forced to face the reality that the strength she thought she controlled was never in her hands at all. This realization hits her hardest when her old ways stop working. Perhaps in the past, a little distance from her side would pull you closer. Perhaps a cold response, a test, or even reclaim it. This is where she begins to separate love from illusion. She may have believed that love meant control, that your devotion meant you were dependent on her. But watching you thrive without her proves the opposite. Your love was strong because you had the strength to give it freely, not because you needed her to complete you. And now that you've taken that strength back, she understands that she was never the source of it, only the beneficiary. That realization is powerful because it makes her confront the possibility that she misread you all along. The calmness in your detachment teaches her a lesson she never expected, that a man who leads with peace is a man who cannot be manipulated. That is when she finally understands that her influence was temporary, but your strength is permanent. And once a woman sees that your power was never in her hands, she realizes something life-changing. She never had control over you. She only had the illusion of it, and illusions always shatter when a man chooses peace. She starts to miss the man she took for granted, not in the early stages, but in the quiet aftermath when the dust settles and the truth becomes clear. At first, she might not even notice your absence in its full weight. She might still be wrapped in her pride, convinced she can move on easily, believing that you will somehow circle back like you always did before. But with time, the silence grows louder, the void grows deeper, and life without your presence begins to expose its emptiness. She remembers the way you checked on her when no one else did, the way you listened to her words without judgment, the way you supported her even when she gave you little in return. And in those memories, regret begins to bloom because she realizes she had something rare, something steady, something real, and she let it slip through her hands. At first, missing you doesn't look like missing love. It looks like small moments of discomfort. She scrolls through her phone and sees your name absent from her notifications. She hears a joke and instinctively thinks of sharing it with you, only to remember she no longer can. She faces a hard day and realizes the comfort she once relied on is no longer available. And it is in those little reminders that her heart begins to ache, because she knows she underestimated the value of the man who once gave her so much of himself without hesitation. The man she once dismissed is now the man she quietly longs for. She begins to replay scenarios in her mind, searching for the moments where she could have chosen differently. Why didn't I appreciate him more? Why didn't I treat him better when I had the chance? Why did I assume he would always be there? These questions haunt her because the answers are not kind. The truth is she believed your love had no limits. She thought your patience was endless. She assumed your loyalty was unbreakable. And now that you've walked away peacefully, she realizes that even the most patient man eventually chooses himself. That realization turns her memories into wounds. Every kindness you gave her now feels like a gift she squandered. Every moment of affection now feels like an opportunity she mishandled. The peace you carry makes her miss you even more, because it proves you didn't leave out of anger or pettiness. You left with dignity. And dignity is unforgettable. Anger can be dismissed, but peace lingers. She begins to see you differently, not as the man she thought she had power over, but as the man who had the strength to walk away without bitterness. That image makes her long for you in ways she never expected, because deep down she realizes men like that are rare. The missing intensifies when she compares what she has now to what she once had. Maybe she talks to other men. Maybe she entertains new connections, but none of them carry the same depth, the same steadiness, the same calm strength you brought. And that contrast only sharpens her regret, because while others may provide attention or excitement, few can offer the security and peace you once gave her. She starts to understand that she did not just lose a man. She lost a presence, a protector, a partner she may never find again. And that's when missing you turns into a lesson she cannot escape. You were never ordinary. You were the man she should have valued, the man she should have fought to keep, the man she should have honored when she had the chance. Now all she has left are memories that grow heavier with time, because the man she once took for granted is now the man she cannot forget. She finally understands that your love was a gift, not a weakness. When the clarity of hindsight settles in and she looks back at everything you once gave so freely. In the beginning, she may have mistaken your devotion for dependency. She may have believed that your consistency meant you had no choice, that your loyalty meant you lacked options, that your effort was born from fear of losing her rather than the strength of choosing her. But when you step away in peace, when you show that your world continues to spin, without her, she is forced to confront the truth. What you offered was never a weakness. It was strength disguised as vulnerability. It was power wrapped in gentleness. It was not a man clinging to a woman for survival, but a man strong enough to give all of himself without fear, because he knew his worth, whether she saw it or not. That's when she begins to realize how rare your love truly was. In a world where most people give half-hearted affection, you gave depth. In a time where most men guard their emotions to protect themselves, you opened yours fully and honestly. And in her immaturity or her pride, she may have seen that as something she could exploit, something she could take for granted. She may have thought that because you were willing to love her unconditionally, you were somehow dependent on her. But the moment you walked away without bitterness, the illusion shattered. She finally saw the truth. Your love was never an obligation. It was a deliberate choice, and choices can be withdrawn. This realization cuts deeply because it forces her to acknowledge that she was entrusted with something most people long for and never receive. Your patience, your attention, your unwavering belief in her, it was all a treasure that she treated like it was ordinary. And now, when she looks back, she understands that you were not weak for giving so much. You were strong for being capable of giving it all. It takes no strength to withhold, to stay guarded, to refuse to care. But it takes tremendous strength to open your heart fully, knowing the risks and still love without hesitation. That is not weakness, that is courage. She finally understands this when she sees how you carry yourself after walking away. You don't crumble.